I think the timing is important to note here, right? So Comcast is saying out loud, hey, we are interested, Fox shareholders, just hold on. And that's in anticipation of a possible meeting. You know, when is the Fox meeting going to happen to rule on, to make decisions on the Disney bid, right? So Fox wants to just get out ahead of it.
Board meeting, you mean? Or do you mean putting it to shareholders?
Putting it to shareholders. And I think that's what Comcast wants to make sure of. Hey, before you make any rash actions in their minds, hear us out.
Do you believe? Is there any chance that they could continue? They could pursue a transaction like this if, and we all think this is contingent on the AT&T Time Warner decision.
Right.
Is it?
It is. So my sources tell me that they're waiting for the June 12th decision on whether AT&T is allowed to buy Time Warner. That sort of clears, in some ways, a regulatory concern or regulatory challenge for Comcast to buy Fox assets. So if they see that happening, they're like, oh, we've got a pathway to clearing this, and so let's make a bid.
Jessi, what's your sense on the regulatory challenge on a Comcast deal relative to a Disney deal?
Well, I mean, I think that's Comcast's question, right, all spring. I think they've been sitting back and watching. And I think ultimately this is a signal that Comcast seems to believe that regulatory challenge is surpassable, that it can essentially mount it at this point. You know, what I think is interesting about this, Andrew, is seeing this come the day after we saw Zuckerberg in Europe yesterday. Right. And this moment we're in when we're looking at the tech companies and we're saying they're just too big. And that too big opens this other question, are they too powerful? Are they evil? And at the same time, the media companies are getting bigger. And in fact, they're getting bigger because
they're trying to challenge the internet companies.
Right, but we're sort of building up to this same problem. Wouldn't you say, Ed?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, the thing about Facebook, the concern is, they're getting so big, they're drawing all the eyeballs. The ad dollars are also coming their way. A lot of us are video ad dollars now. And so I think that's why this deal is happening, or in terms of AT&T Time Warner, Comcast.
I want to get Faber's take on this. David, you with us down at the New York Stock Exchange?
Yeah, I've been here listening. Been listening. Making some calls too.
And where do you stand?
What do you mean, where do I stand?
No, I mean...
How are we supposed to think about this?
How are we supposed to think about it? And do you think...
Help us understand.
Do you think that this is... do you agree with Ed? I mean, is this basically an effort to basically tell the 21st century Fox Board to stand down if you're planning to do anything rash?
I don't think they were planning on doing anything rash. I think, you know, as we said yesterday, Andrew, they're going to set a shareholder vote on this for, let's call it, the middle of July. You've got Judge Leon ruling on the Time Warner case on June 12th, so you were setting up roughly a month period under which Fox shareholders would have, it was seemingly a decent amount of time to weigh the merits of this coming Comcast bid. That perhaps not enough time, at least in the mind of Brian Roberts, to sort of make sure they understood what was coming, and so we got this release this morning that fully indicates what is coming, although we don't have a number. I think important things here to keep in mind are, A, everything I hear indicates that Brian Roberts is extremely focused and aggressive in terms of wanting to own these assets, as much, of course, for the international assets, which comprise, 70% or so of the overall EBITDA at the company, or of the assets being sold, as he would also want to own the studio and the cable nets and potentially the RSNs, although there may be some regulatory issues. What I think is going to be most important to a certain extent, and there is language in the press release that indicates this, and we've indicated in our own reporting, is a willingness on the part of Comcast to offer regulatory assurances, to go very far in doing so, to make sure that Fox and its board and its shareholders understand that they will take on the burden of regulation as opposed to having to share it in any real way or giving that risk to Fox holders.
Is an old media behemoth as problematic as a new media behemoth to regulators? That's my question. I mean, you know, we just heard that a big old media company is just as in the target of regulators as much as a Facebook or a Google after that 60 Minutes report. That's assuming this is like an offensive deal just to conquer the world instead of a defensive deal for old media to try to even, you know, stand a chance against Google, Amazon, Netflix, whatever. I mean, would it still be, I mean, would regulators ever come into the 21st century and realize that?
I know. I understand what you're saying. And listen, a lot of this depends on what Judge Leon decides on the 12th. I mean, we'll see. I think, Joe, if he, as everybody seems to expect, sides with AT&T and Time Warner and lets that deal go through, as is, I think that opens the certainly opens the possibility that while there might still be strong regulatory scrutiny for a Comcast Fox deal or a Disney Fox deal, by the way, that both of them would be potentially allowed to move along. Now, Disney's going to make arguments that Comcast has more at stake, but Comcast will fire back and say, hey, we're not a national carrier the way AT&T or DirecTV are. We're only regional, and so these horizontal issues that you worry about are not real.
David,
or vertical issues that are not real. You know, we'll have to wait and see.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.